Hello. Good morning. Happy Monday. I have an interesting roster as we're waiting for the hearing to happen here for the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case. But I wanted to get these things kind of on on a video before that happens. And yesterday I wasn't able to come on. So um I side note, by the time people see this too, we've already heard more from the hearing. I forget, is it at 11 or 12? I thought it was 12, but it'd be at 11. Um, and n- I found this article and I'll link it below. Every article online is saying this, but only this article explains who they're representing. So, Jeffrey Epstein's victim's lawyer, Sigrid McCauley, is going to represent Leslie Sloan, I believe. Um, and Blake Lively's publicist. So I thought that was interesting. But okay, so I got, as I mentioned last time, I got the Man and Elf book. And to be honest, actually, I went just on Libby on the public library and just read it there because I was searching for a specific chapter and a specific mention after seeing, I think it was a YouTube video or an article talking about this. Anyways, there's been a lot of talk. One of Blake Lively's points was that Justin was sharing with her how, like, no more sharing of basically being a victim or victimizing someone. And I remember reading that initially, and I thought that's interesting that she phrased it that way. So if, let's say, Justin was a victim of DV or anything like that, um, then he shouldn't talk about it. Like, that's sh to you by him talking about that. Anyways, so and I remember that I don't even know how I remember that he talked about this. So I went into the book and I found this chapter. So it was I'm not gonna read read it or read too much or you know go get the book. I feel like articles are great. Books, I feel kind of weird to like talk too much or read too much from them. But um in his chapter about intimacy, let's call it here. He talks about his college experience, his college girlfriend experience, where basically they were together, but she pushed the limits that he was not willing to push. He wanted to save himself for a marriage under his religion, and there he talks about like what that even means as far as like the gray area that people, especially guys, kind of talked in his time around his like high school, middle school age. And so there was like or high school, not middle school, high school age, right? I don't even know. But she just kind of didn't really take no for an answer. And that's why I thought, wow, this is such an interesting, like, potentially traumatic experience for him to go through this again in a very different way. But where Blake Lively has been very candid about not taking no for an answer. We saw over the weekend her basically, not taking no for an answer from Sony as far as like getting her cut of the movie shown to the Book Bonanza crowd. And she literally said in another recording that, no, I don't know, she was joking, but it's just like this again repeated pattern and with actual results of her not taking no for an answer. And yes, it's a little different than like someone's body being violated. And also, like, it's an interesting, I read the chapter, get the book from the library, I actually just bought it on Amazon as a result. I'm like, why? I want to support this man. So, I bought the book. It's coming, but really, really like the gray area. I remember with the Me Too movement, with no means no, and having the power to say no, empowering women to say no, and it's like it's so much more complicated at times. Um, and not even like with the fear of saying no, like, oh, if I say no, I'm going to get some major consequences. But um the things that are going on in your mind, if especially if we're not really sure of what's happening, because we've not been taught the nuances of things. And so he talks about that. He talks about how, like, basically what was going on in his mind, and how he kind of convinced himself, as many people do and many women do, like, well, I was asking for it, or I went along with it, so I played a role in it, which, yes, that's true. But it's like this mind game that we play on ourselves sometimes, when, because he initially said, like, hold on, what are you doing? Like, I said, we talked about this was a no for me. And then he felt pressure to say yes, and as a man, like, he should have no problem crossing that bond, like, this woman wanting to have um all the way intimacy with him, he should want that. He should be okay with that. So, like, the mind games that some people play, and the man side is not often talked about. But um yeah, I wanted to mention that, and I wanted to mention it especially in this context of what we keep seeing. And again, it's not to, like, make Blake be like a terrible person. It's just the interesting, ironic correlation between the two things, and how, and I'm sorry, I'm not on my game today. I'm not really, I'm struggling today to, like, be coherent, I feel like, and all that stuff. But anyways, but yeah, so the correlation of someone who is so, I guess, in their power, who is just pushing their way through from their own insecurities, from their own, issues, and yet how it meets this, and it's like this perfect storm, I feel, that was created with someone who um also has a history. And someone mentioned, a TikToker mentioned, my initial video on, like, is this narcissism and all that stuff, that came from this one TikToker, and I referenced her the in that video that's on my page. And it was like, he's the victim of narcissism and stuff, and narcissistic abuse. And it's interesting. I was like, oh, like, that was the first time that I really kind of heard it that way, especially heard it. And to, like, correlate this, it's like, yeah, the him having a history of kind of crossing his own boundaries, and meeting someone who has a history of crossing boundaries and not apologizing, not feeling like she feeling like she's entitled to. What a mess of a mix. What a mix from, I don't know, a nightmare. And it's an opportunity to further heal for him too, and an opportunity for her to heal. But it doesn't look like she's healing. It looks like she's doubling, tripling down on this. But um yeah, like, I don't find that being incredibly a coincidence. And I mean, it's a coincidence that this happened, but that it went the way that it went because of these two people's history. So I'll include the link below to both his book. I'm not getting any proceedings, or I guess I could, I'll include the Amazon link. That will, like, it doesn't cost you anymore, but you get, like, a little percentage if anyone buys it. Or just go to the library. I I think it's fine too. The one thing that I will mention is this. conversation probably needs to be had at one point too, as far as um, the victims. We talk so much about children, and we talk about like the Catholic Church issues, and um, like little boys, but often I feel like it's still kind of under talked about this kind of stuff with boys. So he in his book he mentions it's 1 in 5 boys, I think. And it's interesting because I found every different source had a different number. Some sources had 1 in 20 boys, under 16, under 18. Also, it depends on the age that they use. Some people use under 16, some people under 18. Um, one had Another source had 1 in 6, another source had also 1 in 6. And then with girls, it's kind of more across the board similar, which is 1 in 5, 1 in 4, 1 in 6 as well, 1 in 9. So, yeah. But also, he talks about this, the sad part of how boys might not realize it until later because of the messaging that they receive from their peers or older boys, or you know, society, or even if they do realize it, how shameful it is even more, and how even more unlikely that it's reported and they report it. Um, and I saw some really dark things that can happen as anyone who, um, experiences any kind of extreme trauma, and trauma to their like personal space like that. It can hurt someone's life, for good, if the factors are there for that. So it's really sad. And I don't want to get into that right now. Just wanted to mention that. Um, Excuse me. But it hit me, and I'm not doing a very good job again today, but it hit me how um, interesting the correlation, this perfect storm that was like set off because of their past experiences and their past patterns. He, however, found Emily, and he talks so well, so um lovingly about her, and talks about how um she has been, I don't know, just the best thing. um He I just have a little screenshot of, because that's what love is. He talks about how he confided in her that when he's feeling really down about himself, or really high sometimes too about something. Um, and I don't know where he is now in his journey, but at the time of writing this book, he was saying at one point he confided in her that he had that addiction that Blake Lively mentions. And I think this is also kind of how it started, my deep dive. And as my thoughts calls it, corn addiction. And how, like, he basically said to her, like, this is where I go when I feel really down about myself or whatever. And um Emily, like, just holding space for him in the most beautiful, loving way, as we all should when people are being so vulnerable about something that's very shameful to themselves, to them, and potentially even super painful. And um we talked about this, or I talked about this a few videos ago, inspired by Dave Neal too, saying when people are vulnerable, when people come back and say, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong, when people open up and are vulnerable to us about something that is really hard for them, even if we don't think it's a big deal, or we don't think it's hard for them, or maybe we think like, well, that's like bad for me in turn or whatever. How important it is to hold that space in a loving way, and in um kind and compassionate way, and create that safety, that safe space. And that's what she did for him in that moment. And um so he was talking about, like, um Yeah, nothing is sexier than having a partner who will look at you and hold you when you are your most vulnerable, hurting human self, when you feel the most worthless and less than. This is why Emily and I often say to each other, I love the poop, but he said a different word, out of you, because that's what love is, and if we allow it, that's what love does. And I wanted to read that especially for the last part, like love can be an action. Love can move so much, and love is not weak. It's not, something that just happens to us. Um we People have started talking about, love as an action, you know having to make that choice to love around, more so around romantic partnership, but I think it's just in general. And yeah, sometimes it's really hard, but someone also said something around this particular thing too, like, um the power of love, not to quote that song, um but only love can, like, change things for the better, maybe Bethany Frankel. I don't know why. I think she did. Probably not. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, so that was like one random topic, I guess, but it was meaningful and I did such a crappy job today. I'm sorry. Um and then there was a mention in a Hollywood Reporter article about him having a breakdown, and after filming the phone, like he finds Atlas's phone number inside her phone case or whatever, in her phone or whatever, and or maybe he called, like, I don't know, that we don't see much of that scene. And after that, he's like, he had to go and, I don't know, lock himself in his trailer, room, whatever, and just cry. And it just, and he talks about how this character stayed with him for so long. And like, because he really went into his character, like Isabella also did. They wrote their journals in the character's voice, and like really dived into becoming this character. And I just feel really bad for him, honestly, that, like, I don't think he'll ever direct and act. If they all make it through, I don't think he'll ever combine the two, for such a particular, role, but especially for at least a while, um period, because that he spoke how, and he just glossed over by just mentioning it was incredibly hard to do both for this particular role, and how challenging the role itself was. Um, and I just, again, just a quick mention, people can use that against him or whatever, but to me, I just wanted to mention it as a reminder that we definitely need to be kind to people, especially just because someone is a man and we have so much to figure out as far as gender equality and gender safety and all that stuff. It doesn't it doesn't take away the human, and it doesn't warrant us to make them, like, men, a punching bag, or a scapegoat, or whatever. And yeah, I just, I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, I have like crumbs, or I don't know. It's like bugging me. So I'll include that link as well below. The other thing, oh, this I should have mentioned earlier, actually, with the chapter in his book and when I was talking. So I was rewatching because Magnus came back on to Jersey's YouTube videos, and they're talking about the Golden Globes or something. I don't know, but anyways, um, so I went back and watched Magnus's, or her interview of him interviewing Blake Lively. And that was another instance when, that's why I decided, like, I really need to include this and talk about this. And I really, like, it just matched up Blake, like, in that interview, first of all, that interview was as the director, producer, distribution, marketing, whatever of A Simple Favor, I would have I don't know, I would have maybe even I don't know. That was basically her promoting her husband's gin over the movie for, like, minutes, and pushing this guy to drink. She didn't know if he had a history with alcohol. She didn't know if he, like, religiously didn't want to or whatever. And also, like, being an interviewer, that alone is a relationship where as the interviewer is saying, "No, yes, you can," but it's that kind of, like, mind game that you play with yourself, I'm sure, just by how interviewers look, and especially new interviewers. He wasn't, but, like, you see it more in them because they're more transparent with their emotions and when they're uncomfortable rather than experienced ones that kind of know how to keep their composure. But, it was just absolutely, like, terrible. She didn't really take notes. She just started pouring the gin for him and just shoved it in his hand. And then, the way that she talked about it, that she talked about, "Yeah, I don't like coffee, but, I drink it because of the story," and I was like, "Are you crossing your own boundaries, or are," but I think she was just saying that just to say, basically, commercial for the gin, and that was so uncomfortable and just wrong, I don't know, it hit every time that I see that video, it hits. I'll include that video too. I wish we would have seen, like, the whole thing. Maybe it's online, maybe it's on his page or somewhere online, but, yeah, it's, just the way that she was talking. I don't know what's real with her. I don't know. It almost made me think, "Oh, she should be a marketer, like, in business," because she's just saying BS. She is a storyteller, but not about life. And I guess that's kind of relating to It Ends With Us. That's kind of what happened there too, where she is a storyteller about fashion, about certain things, but not about, like, human emotion or human experience, if that makes sense. It's more like she uses that, which marketing does. So I don't know, but just a random thing. This is like the worst video I think that I've done. um The other stuff, that I came across that I wanted to just get out of the way before who knows what's coming next, is I did find a podcast or something where, they were talking about it was pro Blake, and this was a while ago. I think it was before his lawsuit, maybe, or maybe after, but it was still a while ago where they were talking about it, and, it's just, like, it's interesting how they use her personal words, not evidence, not any evidence, but her what she says as proof, and then compare it to what he lays out as, like, objective truth, because you see his words, her words, all that stuff, and it was just really I got through it though. But yeah, some of the things that I hear about that, and they brought up a good point. Like, is this a sexism thing? Is this a gender thing? And um, I am feeling you today. I thought that was like an interesting topic, um, because it kind of is in a way reversed. It depends on how you look at it, and I guess, but like it's so the gender part is so embedded in this, almost whichever way you look at, because at least for me, like I just said in the beginning, you know it is about men having this, like, our perception of men, that, needs to be overcome or, digested before looking at this um case. um and then what how we see women, and also coming from, a country, like a different country, where I have not the best view of women. I I don't see women as victims, um because there's a lot more control from women in in Romanian culture. But at the same time, I also see they had a lot more agency in a way, as I was growing up, at least. I don't know beforehand or so, but um at the same time, because there's so much conversation in the US, I have also understood and seen the underlying, you know, ways that women are controlled and undermined. But yeah, so I don't know, but it's an interesting topic that I guess I thought I was prepared for, but I wasn't. Um let's see, maybe I wrote something in my notes here. Um yeah, I wrote again, I want to see Blake's support being rooted in evidence rather than her claims and lawyers' words. Yeah. Um Oh, well, yeah, this isn't with the sexism, but it's interesting how each side is think seeing this as the other side is not critically thinking. At least like in this particular podcast that I was watching, they brought this up that, you know, there is a lack of critical thinking, for those on the side of, I think it was from the podcast, those on the side of Justin. And I thought, oh, interesting. So both sides think they're rooting for their own underdog. Both sides think that they're they're the ones that are critically thinking. Um and I don't know, I've wondered this for a while, when both sides think the same exact thing, but literally the opposite. w- what does that mean? And what do you do with that? Where do you go from that? But I think if you acknowledge that, hey, we're both seeing our person as the underdog, we both are seeing that we are the ones that are critical thinking and you're not, and the other side is not. Like, maybe it's a time to pause and like explore that, and having that conversation when you're having it with someone, and when you're able to have it with someone, and like exploring why that is. And I don't know, I just find that very interesting always. um and then they also mentioned that that hearsay part, because when her words and his words are hearsay. But that Blake, to me, Blake claimed that she was instructed by Sony, ultimately by Wayfair, as to how she should promote this movie, and even mentioning that she should promote it as the Barbie movie coming from them. However, we just saw in this timeline that it was Ryan's marketing house or whatever, marketing firm, that took over promotion once they separated. Once she like discarded him, Dr. Amen Kaur was making like videos like one after the other. She really, gloves came off with her over the weekend. And she mentioned the cycle of love bombing, devaluation, and discard. And it was so interesting to see the final discard, because she changed. Blake changed in tone of voice. She changed, and I think I mentioned it on my live, because I think I got that far. But she changed in tone of voice. She changed in how she was communicating, all that stuff. And yeah, that was like really interesting. Um, and Yeah, but they in that podcast they mentioned they didn't know this at the time, I guess. But yeah, now we know that it was really their marketing that they decided on. However, whatever they decided on, it was from them, not from Sony, or whoever else. Maybe inspired or like within some kind of guidelines, but I mean, as we saw, she doesn't really, she does whatever she wants, literally, from the beginning, at least from what we see in her pattern and her history of what we know. Um, anyways, social media. Oh, yeah, because they mentioned social media was filled with anti-Blake content. Um, you know, how much was it? First of all, how much was that true? And second of all, how much of that was any kind of plant or encouragement from one side or the other? Because, just as easily we see how manipulative Blake's side can be. So just as easily they could be basically projecting onto Justin what they did. Um, and what they're claiming that he did with releasing, supposedly they're claiming that he released their claim that he didn't have access to, and to the New York Times. And it's not impossible for me to think that because they've been sitting on this, we see, for so long. She's used all of this stuff for so long through the filming process. And it's not impossible to think that her PR put like negative Blake stories just to blame it and victimize herself and then come out on top after. Um, I don't know. Just a complete thought, not really necessarily, a huge theory at the time. It's kind of like all the other theories of like, oh, it was Ryan the mastermind and the crush. The more this goes on, and after the timeline of events, the least the crush makes sense. I don't think there was anything with the crush. There was just no crush involved with her and Justin. From the beginning, we see just love bombing. We don't see real emotion. We don't see real affinity for someone. Um, in my opinion, I don't see any of that. And um just her actions just prove more and more and more, because just because you have a crush on someone, even if you're you know getting used to getting everything you want and all that stuff, it doesn't line up at all. So I don't know, I'm yet to be convinced on that one, I guess. um and the last thing well, two things that I want to talk about before showing you the film org chart, because in I watched Lauren, Nagy. Um, Sorry that I got your name wrong, but I watch her live sometimes. Well, now I've just found her, um, and she had this guy. I think I spoke about this yesterday, or I don't know. No, yeah, no, I wasn't living, but um there's this engineer that she had on, and he was talking like an engineer. And I decided, like, maybe, yeah, we haven't really I haven't seen people, much of people. I suck today, I'm so sorry. But yeah, we haven't seen this. I haven't seen this so far. But I do have, because I went to actually a PA workshop a few weeks ago before this was crazy, and I before I knew that I was going to do any of this. But they gave us an org chart, and I want to show that there is one. And I think Bruce was his name. Bruce, like, that was the whole point. That's a huge point of this, is that she disregarded it. And the reason that she was able to disregard it and didn't get fired and didn't have much pushback, although I think she did have some pushback, is because of this. Well, first of all, that's what's, I think, hugely in question. How should this work? Because it shouldn't, even if you're like this mega star. But however, the power is different in in Hollywood. In like a regular organization, you would have like managers, you'd have a certain title for people with power. And if you don't have that power, unless, although Dr. Ahmed Kaur said, it's not always the boss. People, if we use it as a jumping off point, or if Blake has these tendencies and this, um, like, it doesn't matter. And there is proof to that, because when she was coming up in the industry and she was nobody basically, she just had one movie in high school, like Traveling Pants. She did that. She was in power despite having zero power technically on paper, and she keeps doing that. And but yeah, I'll share with that. I'll share with you that in a second. But um, just to tie up the Dr. Kaur, she mentioned also when Blake didn't want to see the intimacy coordinator as soon as they were hired and they had the meeting. Um, Basically, and I learned something new, so that's why I'm sharing. Um, People with narcissistic tendencies or toxic traits, although I don't like using that, because I love how, um I forget her name, but the doctor that is very much about narcissism on YouTube and explaining it and educating about it and so forth. I love how she differentiated toxic people and toxic traits to narcissism or narcissistic traits, because toxicity can be, what's one person's toxic isn't another's, and that's different. There's no objective toxic, although some therapists don't even like that word. But yeah, it's like health and toxicity is a lot dependent on your own and their own traumas, or wounds and sensitivities. Although valid, it doesn't make that person specifically have an objective bad thing. Like, they can be um selfish or self-centered, they can be like, to an extreme, they can be inconsiderate, they can be a jerk. That doesn't make them toxic completely. Someone else might be like, oh, that's not a big deal, because it depends. I know she I'll include that link below too. I'm sorry I forget her name, but she explained it so much better than I am. But Dr. Kaur does use that word. Anyway, so they want to do what they want to do. They don't want people telling them what to do, is what Dr. Kawood was saying. And so it's interesting, because to relate it to that, we still don't know if she ever met with the intimacy coordinator. We know that there were three intimacy coordinators based on IMDb. We know that they existed, they were on set. Um, but it's interesting how you could say maybe she preemptively was going to use that against Justin and against the production, or she just thought in the present moment. She just didn't want to be controlled. She didn't want to be, uh, you know, she didn't want guidelines and rules. She wanted to be free of that and do whatever she wanted, instead of what was talked about and agreed upon for the safety of everyone and the comfortability of everyone. Um, So, yeah, the other part that Dr. Kaur mentioned around that control was also bringing their own people on. And, we haven't seen too much around the first AD situation, and second AD. We didn't see anything around the second AD. We've only read their words, Justin's camp's words on it. Um, but we know for sure that Blake wanted, was it a producer? Yeah, the A-list producer. And um I thought something else where she want oh, the trainer. So it was like, how easy can you take over something when you infiltrate your own people in? Um And yeah, I thought that was like interesting too. And then the nice pool. So I sorry. I actually don't think the original scenes were either I didn't see them through the end or they didn't include it on YouTube, or TikTok or wherever they include like, hey, these are the nice pool scenes. But at the end when Deadpool holds Nice Pool, gets shot by Blake Lively's character, Lady Pool by Lady Pool, and then they have the conversation behind the car, and then he brings him out again as a human shield. What I found very interesting, don't know that it means anything, don't know that it doesn't mean anything, but and I guess I'll play it for you. If I find where it was. But because now I know how to share stuff, and I suck anyways this today. Um okay, here it is. Okay. Oh, almost ended the stream instead. Wait, did I put sorry. Yeah. Okay.
But in here, everybody calls me Nice. I'd love to get in the mix, but I have low bone density and I have to keep my face safe. Boys, mission over. Cause of death, 100. Kill.
Oh, shit.
Hey! Why are we stopping? This cat is because I'm paralyzed. We all have... Look at me, Nicepool. Live! I'm gonna live! You're gonna live. Say it! I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live!
Maybe this wasn't it. No, this wasn't it. Oh, that's so interesting. Hold on, because basically he says, "I'm so sorry, Nice Pool," and I was like, "That is definitely interesting. That is definitely interesting." Because and he sounded very sincere too, which of course all of this is acting and all that stuff, but it is very clear who Nice Pool is. There were more things that came out after. Like, more, things that were in the scene that, weren't seen. I can't find the video now. That's so weird because I was really sure that was the one. Um, but yeah, so I wanted to mention that for whatever sake that is. Um, I don't even know what that meant, what I said. I'm just trying to see if in my history there's a different one. No, that was the one. Anyways, um but yeah, it is there. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways. Um, and then yeah, let me and then my friend said also that there's even like nose prosthetic was used. So let me get the chart really fast. I'm so sorry. I thought I had brought it with me, but it's not. Oh, 10 seconds. Not even. And I think the hearing is happening now. But here we are. Oh, maybe it was okay. Maybe it was on my phone. Anyways, I'm gonna. This all sucks, anyways, today. So why not take the extra little tiny bit of time to look this up? I could have like actually prepared for this, and I thought I was prepared. I was gonna sing the Jeopardy song, but I'm that off my game today to not even think of how that goes right now. Um, every time she's like me, every time that she gets the mic in her face, she's like just silence. Um, it's crazy how lately I've not been taking much photos or videos, many photos or videos. What am I saying? English arena, English. Okay, here we go. So I guess I'll share this with myself and then share it with you. But there is an absolute that's the thing, like with film, it's very much organized. There is a chain of command, if you will, um, very much so. And sometimes, yeah, I guess sometimes it's not exactly respected. So let me share my screen. I'm sorry for the delay and everything. Oh wow, that's so interesting. It's not showing up. Well, this is my Monday the 13th minus the 13th. It's well, it's the 3rd. So I'll just share it this way. Um, screen lock. This is so bad. I'll include this. Wow. All right. This is not the best. I'll include this somehow in a better way. But this is an org chart. There's a studio, line producer, director, and producer, production manager and producer. Like they're kind of sideways. They're together. I did find something online that um, oh, I have an idea of how to. I found something online that had a very different one, but this is actually well, I believe I didn't think of this. This is actually how um they currently showed us this. This is the Greater Film Commission, Greater Cleveland Film Commission. Anyway, so you have the studio, and I guess this would be Wayfair and Sony would be here probably too. Because I don't see distribution particularly separate. And- Excuse me, you have the line producer, you have the director and production manager and producers over here. Um, and then you have the cinematographer, and below them, all the camera and grip, electricians, etc. Also, n- and these are all under the director too, the makeup, hair, casting directors, etc. And then you have the script supervisor. They work directly with the director to keep continuity. And then you have and their own kind of thing. And then you have the production designer, art department. Right, this is the art department. Yeah. um, the set, props, etc. And then you have the first AD and second AD and PAs, production assistants, and so forth. And basically, the first AD and that I don't want to mess things up. I know, like off the top of my head, like generally, I have an idea in my head, but I don't want to mess it up as far as um, I don't know details. So I'll share as far as the script, because this is a huge one here. The producer usually completes a simple script breakdown and creates a preliminary shooting schedule and budget. And then the first AD is kind of, or the second AD, they take the schedule, like are the ones that make the schedule once everyone's on board and trying to find the logistics, which I really enjoy doing myself. So might be a first AD instead. Anyways, the script supervisors, uh, the continuity. The first AD then conducts a comprehensive script breakdown. This is after the director, and they create one-liner strip boards, production shooting schedule, and day out of days, which I think are like those things. Sorry, I'm not an expert on this. I'm still learning a lot of it because my filmmaking experience has been not to this level. But yeah, the DP marks the script to generate a shot list and equipment requirements, and other department heads, production designer, art department, etc., will do their own analysis as well. Um, and yeah, I don't think I included, you know, what the first AD is, but from my understanding, the first AD is the manager of set, basically. They just manage the days, making sure everyone and everything is where it needs to be. Um, so maybe the second AD is the one that's like in charge of schedule, or like the updating of the schedule every day. But yeah, so to fire the first AD during production, maybe it happens often, but it's a big deal, because they are the ones that like know everything about the whole project. Then you have the location manager and coordinators, etc. The production coordinator, assistants, etc. And then you have the controller and the accounting column, basically, and then transport, and um, that's kind of the org chart. So it exists, and then you don't have, the actors here, but they would fall under the director, and the principal actors can have their own like um second AD, I think, or PAs. Um but yeah, and Blake didn't really respect that. The script, also the screenwriter is not on here because that's kind of before. This is like during production. Um yeah, she just crossed over everyone's. She wanted to do something, she was doing it. Didn't matter that she wasn't the you know wardrobe, um she wasn't the screenwriter, she wasn't whatever, the director, she was doing it, and that's a big one. um so you're right, Bruce. But yeah, um Saurabh Kumar, yes, 100%. I don't, sorry, I missed that. But thanks for the chat message. Anyways, I'm gonna get off, and this was also going to be about, oh yeah, Karen Hooger. The only thing I want to mention about that, because it's like I just see her and Bryn on Housewives of New York, and it's like, is this the year where manipulation gets like unearthed and dealt with and discarded, hopefully, and we enter this new era of more honesty and, good winning, good triumphing. I don't even think winning is the word, but the good triumphing versus the bad and the manipulative and um the fake and all that stuff. um because it's really sad, when you're sitting with it. This is again a human being, and she's also older, and you sit with her potentially going up to 2 years to prison for a DUI charge that she was found guilty on. And it does, like, hit you. It hurts to see someone. At the same time, it's also like, how many consequences have you escaped until this point? And thank goodness that no one was hurt and everything was safe. Um, but it seemed like there was a continuous problem, and just the way that she was speaking in this recent episode, and I get that probably no one on here watches the Housewives. Again, it's not so much about this, it's just like I'm just seeing this pattern, and bullying and controlling, because she was bullying people and controlling who talked with who and who like had an impression of who and all this stuff. Um and it was like coming out and no one's like buying it anymore. No one's under her control. And for her to say to a friend, "You've been demoted, you are in timeout and you've been demoted," and then bringing up, I don't know, just like not it was just it was hard to watch, and I just had my little thoughts on it. But yeah, I'm gonna go and see what's up with the hearing, and I'll talk to you guys later tonight as all the information is coming in and sitting with it, unless something like whoa is happening or happened. And Yeah, I'll talk to you later. And sorry to put you through this terrible live, terrible video. But I appreciate anyone who's like held on with me through this. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later.